The morning sun cast golden rays across Windsor Castle as hundreds of guests gathered for what would become one of the most memorable royal ceremonies of the decade. Camilla Parker Bowles stood in the ornate preparation room, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her elegant cream-colored dress. The weight of the moment pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy crown. She had waited decades for this day. Through scandal, public criticism, and endless media scrutiny, she had remained by Charles's side. Now, finally, they would be married in a ceremony that would make their union official in the eyes of the world. The irony was not lost on her that she was preparing in the same castle where Charles had once lived with Diana, the woman whose shadow still loomed large over their relationship. The morning had started perfectly. Charles had sent her a bouquet of white roses with a note that simply read, "Today we begin forever." The gesture had brought tears to her eyes, though she quickly dabbed them away to preserve her carefully applied makeup. Her dresser, Margaret, had worked tirelessly to ensure every detail was perfect. The dress, designed by Anna Valentine, hugged her figure elegantly, and the diamond tiara that once belonged to Queen Elizabeth's mother caught the light beautifully. Outside the castle walls, crowds had begun gathering before dawn. Some came to celebrate, others out of curiosity, and a few to protest. The British public remained divided about Camilla, with many still harboring resentment over her role in Charles and Diana's marriage breakdown. But inside the castle, surrounded by family and close friends, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. Prince William and Prince Harry had arrived early, both looking handsome in their military uniforms. Despite the complicated history, they had accepted Camilla into their lives with grace that surprised many observers. William had even offered her a warm smile and a gentle squeeze of her hand when he greeted her earlier. Harry, ever the charmer, had made her laugh with a joke about royal protocol that eased her nerves considerably. Queen Elizabeth herself had given her blessing to the union, though she would not attend the civil ceremony due to her position as head of the Church of England. Instead, she would join them for the blessing service afterward. This arrangement had taken months to negotiate, with palace officials working tirelessly to find a solution that satisfied both constitutional requirements and family wishes. As the morning progressed, Camilla's confidence grew. She practiced walking in her heels, knowing that millions would be watching her every step. The media attention was intense, with cameras positioned at every possible angle around the castle grounds. She had grown accustomed to the scrutiny over the years, but today felt different. Today, she wasn't hiding or apologizing for her presence in Charles's life. She was stepping forward as his chosen partner, ready to take on the responsibilities that came with being his wife. The preparation room buzzed with activity as hairstylists made final touches and photographers captured candid moments. Camilla's children, Tom and Laura, stayed close by, offering support and sharing in her joy. Tom, in particular, seemed emotional about the day, having watched his mother endure years of public criticism while maintaining her dignity and grace. At 11:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, Camilla received word that Charles was ready and waiting. She took a deep breath, gathered her bouquet, and prepared to make the walk that would change her life forever. The few hundred guests had taken their seats in the Guildhall's Ascot room, and the registrar was ready to begin. As she made her way through the castle corridors toward the waiting car, Camilla reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. The years of being called the other woman, the constant comparisons to Diana, the protests and negative headlines, all of it had led to this day. She thought about her first husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, and how their amicable divorce had paved the way for this new chapter. She thought about her grandmother, who had always told her that true love was worth fighting for, no matter what obstacles stood in the way. The short car ride to Windsor Guildhall passed in a blur. Crowds lined the streets, with some waving British flags and others holding signs of support. There were protesters, too, but their voices seemed distant compared to the thundering of her own heartbeat. This was it, the moment she had dreamed of during all those years of secret meetings, stolen moments, and public denials. As the car pulled up to the Guildhall, Camilla could see Charles waiting inside through the large windows. He looked distinguished in his morning coat, and when their eyes met, he smiled in a way that reminded her of their early days together, when they were just two people falling in love against all odds. The weight of royal protocol, public opinion, and media scrutiny faded away in that moment, leaving only the anticipation of finally becoming husband and wife. The car door opened, and Camilla stepped out into the bright April sunlight, ready to walk into her future as the Duchess of Cornwall. Little did she know that in just a few minutes, that future would take an unexpected turn that would be remembered and discussed for years to come. The ceremony that was meant to be the perfect ending to their long journey together was about to become something entirely different, a moment that would test not only their love but their commitment to each other in the most public way possible. The Guildhall's Ascot room had been transformed into an elegant venue worthy of a royal wedding. Cream roses and white lilies decorated every corner, and the soft light filtering through the tall windows created an almost ethereal atmosphere. The guests, a carefully selected group of family and close friends, sat quietly as they waited for the ceremony to begin. Charles stood at the front of the room, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the door through which Camilla would enter. Prince William sat in the front row beside his girlfriend, Kate Middleton, while Prince Harry fidgeted slightly with his military uniform buttons. The Queen's absence was notable but understood, and her representative, a palace official, sat ready to witness the proceedings on behalf of the Crown. Tom Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, had been designated to walk his mother down the aisle. As they entered the room together, a collective intake of breath could be heard from the assembled guests. Camilla looked radiant, her confidence evident in every step. The months of planning, the careful coordination with palace officials, and the media management had all led to this perfect moment. The registrar, Claire Williams, stood ready with the marriage documents spread before her. She had conducted hundreds of civil ceremonies, but never one quite like this. The weight of history and the presence of cameras recording every word for posterity added a gravity to the proceedings that she felt deeply. She began with the traditional words that had been spoken at countless weddings before, but everyone in the room knew this was anything but ordinary. Charles's eyes never left Camilla's face as she approached. After 35 years of knowing each other, through marriages to other people, public scandals, and endless speculation, they were finally here. The man who would one day be king was about to marry the woman he had always loved, regardless of what society had demanded of them. As Camilla took her place beside Charles, the registrar began the ceremony. The words seemed to float through the room like a gentle melody. Friends and family members leaned forward slightly, not wanting to miss a single moment of this historic occasion. Tom Parker Bowles beamed with pride as he watched his mother prepare to marry the man who had made her happy for so many years. The registrar spoke about the nature of marriage, about commitment and loyalty, about the journey that Charles and Camilla had taken to reach this moment. There were subtle acknowledgments of the unconventional path their relationship had taken, but the focus remained on the love and dedication they had shown each other through the years. Charles spoke his vows with a voice that carried across the room, clear and strong. He promised to love Camilla, to honor her, to support her in her new role as a member of the royal family. His words were simple but heartfelt, and those who knew him could hear the genuine emotion behind each phrase. This wasn't just duty or obligation speaking. This was a man declaring his love for the woman who had stood by him through his darkest moments. When it came time for Camilla to speak her vows, she began with a voice that was steady and sure. She had practiced these words countless times, knowing that they would be analyzed and remembered for generations. She promised to love Charles, to support him in his role as heir to the throne, to serve the British people alongside him. Her voice grew stronger with each word, as if she was not just promising her future to Charles, but claiming her place in the royal family and British history. The exchange of rings went smoothly, with both Charles and Camilla smiling as they slipped the simple gold bands onto each other's fingers. These weren't the elaborate royal jewels that had marked Charles's first wedding to Diana, but simple, elegant symbols of their commitment to each other. The choice had been deliberate. This marriage would be different, more private, more personal. As the ceremony neared its conclusion, the atmosphere in the room was one of joy and celebration. Guests began to relax, anticipating the moment when the registrar would pronounce them husband and wife. Kate Middleton, sitting beside Prince William, smiled as she watched the proceedings, perhaps imagining her own future royal wedding. Prince Harry seemed genuinely happy for his father, having come to appreciate Camilla's positive influence on Charles over the years. The registrar prepared to speak the final words that would make Charles and Camilla officially married. The photographers positioned themselves for the perfect shot of the moment when the Prince of Wales would kiss his new bride. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned, exactly as it had been rehearsed and choreographed down to the smallest detail. But as the registrar opened her mouth to pronounce them husband and wife, something completely unexpected happened. Camilla, who had been standing perfectly composed throughout the entire ceremony, suddenly swayed slightly. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than a minor adjustment of her position, perhaps the result of standing in heels for an extended period. Charles, ever attentive to her needs, immediately noticed the subtle change in her posture. His years of experience at formal events had taught him to be aware of every detail, every potential problem that might arise. But this seemed like nothing more than a momentary unsteadiness, easily corrected and forgotten. The registrar continued with her pronouncement, but as she spoke the words husband and wife, Camilla's face suddenly went pale. The color drained from her cheeks so quickly that several guests gasped audibly. Margaret, her dresser, who had been watching from the back of the room, immediately stepped forward, sensing that something was wrong. Charles reached out instinctively to steady Camilla, but even as his hand touched her arm, she began to sway more dramatically. The perfect composure she had maintained throughout the morning, the confidence she had built up over months of preparation, seemed to evaporate in an instant. Her bouquet trembled in her hands, and her breathing became shallow and rapid. The room fell silent as everyone realized that this wasn't just a minor moment of unsteadiness. Something was genuinely wrong with the new Duchess of Cornwall. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of what was supposed to be a moment of triumph, but was quickly becoming something else entirely. The fairy tale wedding that had been years in the making was about to take a dramatic and unexpected turn that no one could have anticipated. The silence in the Guildhall's Ascot room was deafening as Camilla's knees buckled. Time seemed to slow as she crumpled toward the floor, her elegant cream dress billowing around her like fallen petals. The bouquet of white roses tumbled from her hands, scattering across the polished floor as guests watched in stunned disbelief. "Camilla!" Charles's voice rang out across the room, cutting through the shocked silence like a blade. The usual reserve and protocol that governed every royal appearance vanished instantly as he dropped to his knees beside his new wife, his morning coat spreading around him as he gathered her in his arms. His voice, filled with genuine panic and love, echoed off the walls of the historic building, reaching every guest and every camera recording the moment. Prince William and Prince Harry immediately jumped from their seats, their military training kicking in as they moved to assist their father. Kate Middleton's hand flew to her mouth in shock, while Tom Parker Bowles pushed through the crowd of guests, his face a mask of worry for his mother. The carefully orchestrated royal ceremony had dissolved into chaos in a matter of seconds. Margaret, Camilla's faithful dresser, was the first to reach them after Charles, her years of caring for the royal family evident in her quick response. She knelt beside Camilla, checking her pulse and breathing while speaking in soothing tones. "It's all right, Your Royal Highness. Just breathe slowly. You're going to be fine." The registrar, Claire Williams, stood frozen at her podium, the marriage documents still spread before her. Technically, the ceremony had been completed just moments before Camilla collapsed. She was now officially the Duchess of Cornwall, but instead of celebrating, she lay unconscious in her husband's arms while chaos erupted around them. Dr. Sarah Chen, the royal physician who had been discreetly stationed outside the ceremony room, rushed in with her medical bag. Her presence had been a standard precaution for any royal event, but no one had expected to need her services during the actual ceremony. She quickly assessed Camilla's condition, checking her vital signs while Charles held her hand, murmuring words of comfort and encouragement. "She's breathing normally," Dr. Chen announced to the room, her professional calm helping to ease the panic that had gripped the guests. "Her pulse is steady. It appears to be a fainting spell, likely brought on by the stress and excitement of the day. Let's give her some space and fresh air." Charles refused to leave Camilla's side as the medical team worked. His usual formal demeanor had completely disappeared, replaced by the instincts of a husband caring for his wife. He loosened the collar of his morning coat and fanned her face with his hand, speaking softly to her even though she couldn't hear him. "Come back to me." "Darling, you're safe. I'm here." Prince William took charge of managing the crowd of guests, asking people to step back and give the medical team room to work. His natural leadership abilities, which would serve him well in his future role as king, were evident as he calmly but firmly directed people away from the scene. Prince Harry, meanwhile, coordinated with the security team to ensure that the media cameras outside were kept at a respectful distance. After what felt like hours but was actually only a few minutes, Camilla's eyes began to flutter open. The first thing she saw was Charles's worried face looking down at her, his eyes filled with love and concern. "Charles?" she whispered, her voice barely audible in the quiet room. "I'm here, my love," he replied, his relief evident in every word. "You gave us quite a scare, but you're going to be fine. Dr. Chen says it was just the excitement of the day catching up with you." As Camilla slowly regained her composure, helped to sit up with Charles supporting her, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Her perfect wedding day, the culmination of years of waiting and planning, had been interrupted by her own body's response to the overwhelming emotions and stress of the moment. She felt embarrassed and worried about how the incident would be perceived by the public and the media. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to Charles, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "I've ruined everything." Charles gently wiped away her tears with his handkerchief, the same one he had carried on their first official date decades earlier. "You haven't ruined anything, darling. If anything, you've shown everyone how much this day meant to you. Sometimes our hearts are too full for our bodies to handle." Dr. Chen recommended that Camilla rest for a few minutes before attempting to stand. The guests, understanding the need for privacy, began to file out of the ceremony room quietly, many of them wiping away tears of their own. The raw emotion they had witnessed, Charles's immediate response, his public declaration of love for his wife, and the vulnerability of the moment had touched everyone present. Tom Parker Bowles knelt beside his mother, taking her other hand in his. "Mom, are you all right? Should we postpone the reception?" Camilla looked around the room at the concerned faces of the people she loved most. Charles still held her protectively, unwilling to let her go even for a moment. The wedding flowers lay scattered around them, and her carefully arranged hair had come loose during the fall. But as she looked into her husband's eyes, she realized that this moment, chaotic and unplanned as it was, had revealed something beautiful about their relationship. "No," she said, her voice growing stronger. "We're not postponing anything. This is our day, and we're going to celebrate it properly." With Charles's help, she slowly stood up, smoothing down her dress and attempting to repair her appearance. Margaret immediately stepped forward with pins and powder, working quickly to restore Camilla's polished look. The other guests, who had been watching from a respectful distance, burst into spontaneous applause as she regained her footing. Prince William approached his stepmother with a warm smile. "Welcome to the family, Camilla," he said, giving her a gentle hug. "If you can survive a royal wedding, you can survive anything we throw at you." Prince Harry followed suit, his characteristic humor helping to lighten the mood. "Well, that's certainly one way to make sure people remember your wedding day," he joked, earning a laugh from Camilla and relieving some of the tension in the room. As they prepared to leave for the blessing service at St. George's Chapel, where Queen Elizabeth would be waiting to welcome them officially into the royal family, Camilla reflected on the unexpected turn her perfect day had taken. The moment when Charles had shouted her name, dropping all royal protocol to care for her, would be replayed in the media for days to come. But rather than feeling embarrassed, she felt grateful. The incident had stripped away all pretense and revealed the truth that she and Charles had always known. Their love for each other was real, deep, and unshakable. No amount of public scrutiny, royal protocol, or media attention could change that fundamental reality. As they walked out of the Guildhall together, Charles's arm protectively around her waist, Camilla knew that while her wedding day hadn't gone according to plan, it had been perfect in its own unexpected way. The crowds outside erupted in cheers as the new Duke and Duchess of Cornwall emerged, and Camilla waved with renewed confidence. She was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that Charles would always be there to catch her if she fell, just as he had done on the most important day of their lives.